Commissioners, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. We're back. We're going to start with Superior Court. What you got for us?
Good morning, Commissioners. Paddy McGuire, Chief Superior Court Administrator. Two items before I get into the main event. One is, if you saw the Journal article from 2 weeks ago about our courtroom remodel. Hope you'll come over and take a look at it. If you haven't, again, hats off to facilities who did that almost all of it, all the work in-house. It looks awesome, and they did a great job. Other item, less happy news.
No, we're only doing happy news.
Oh, so okay, I'll just stay on that. Less happy news. It appears both the Senate and House budgets are significantly cutting the funding for the BECA program, which will go from an underfunded mandate to an unfunded mandate.
Do we know the cost?
We this year we've got about $57,000 split between juvenile court, superior court, the clerk's office, and the prosecutor's office. So half of that, because of their funding versus the fiscal year versus calendar year funding. So half of that presumably in 2025 and
Right.
zero and all of it in 26 going forward. So we're not happy about that, and
We're
the
not.
Courts Association are doing what they can, but since it's in both budgets, it's probably
I
not
don't know
good.
about you, but I'm not happy with their budgets at all.
What I'm here to talk about is two things related to the juvenile detention facility next door. We had, as you know, that was a temporary facility a long time ago, and we've been working on sort of a 3-year phased approach to upgrading systems. Last year we did the intercom system. This year we got funding to do the cabinetry. We had hoped to come back and do door locks next year, but fate has intervened, and they just stopped working, which happened at the Thurston County facility several months ago. We got in, the contractor came in and did emergency repairs. It cost us $2,000 to do that. They said, there's only so much chewing gum and duct tape that they can use on the system, and it's going to cost $12,900 to replace it, and we just kind of have to do that. The good news is we can use REIT money to do that, and so we are asking for $14,900 for the repairs and $14,900 for the repairs and the system replacement. The other piece that we need is the intervention center, which the corner closest to us had been designated an intervention center. We never really had staffing to use it. It became a storeroom. We have converted that into a female dormitory because our population is going up and we need to be prepared for that. The vast majority of that work was done, again, by facilities. They did a really great job, $6,500 for the work, which included covering windows, covering the door from the inside, bolting the door. Kelly said it's going to be easier to get out through the wall than it is to get out through that door. Having to reconfigure the fencing outside because there had been access at the corner door here. That's gone now because you can't have that. So that's $6,500. We need 4 new bunks in there. That's $4,900. The $4,900 can't be REIT funded. The $6,500 can be. So we are asking for funding for those things. Happy to answer any questions. I was hoping that the bunks could be refunded because they're bolted to the floor, but Jen said no. It's still furniture, even if it's bolted to the ground.
Right.
Personally, I think just timing wise, I'd like to see it come back to us in about a month and a half. For other things that are going on, that's me personal.
I don't know that we have a choice in the matter, because
Yeah,
I think we're at that.
especially in the locks, it's gonna be, it's gonna crash
Yeah,
again.
except for it could crash again, but we may not, maybe need them.
Wish I could read your mind.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a lock expert. I mean, the company told us they need to be replaced, and they just, there aren't parts for the original. I mean, it is original to the building.
But they did get it going again.
Yeah, it is working
currently,
again,
yeah.
but
So it looks like we did $2,000 in emergency repairs, and
12.9 will
12
replace.
would replace everything.
Yes.
Similar to what we've done in jail. So I don't know if they were similar in age, but
I don't know.
Jet keys.
We do have these.
We're gonna need more staffing if the remote door
Can I
won't.
talk about that real quick about the keys thing? Is the issue with keys is when sometimes we get youth that are in their rooms that they'll jam the locks.
Oh, right,
They'll push chalk or, whatever it is.
whatever.
They'll figure out a way and then the lock's jammed and then we have a kid that could be locked.
Stuck.
Yeah, because we can't get that key in to turn it.
Makes so much sense.
But with the electronic locks, it still works.
It still works.
Okay.
Again, I won't stand against that. I guess we prefer a month and a half as we look through some of the things that we need to do. But I would definitely be voting for it if you guys put it on the agenda right now.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any way around it. Especially knowing what's coming our way in June or July.
So they've got two requests here, right? So
Yes.
21.4 out of real estate excise tax, and that would cover your dormitory, fencing, lock repair, and replacement.
4,000 for that.
$4,900.
4,900 out of general fund to pay for bunks. Does it matter, Randy, in terms of the source of where it's being requested from, or do you want to do a
Well,
portion?
it definitely matters where the source it's coming from. That definitely matters. But just right now, there's, well, again, I'll go ahead and go along with it. I'm just,
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable moving ahead.
Well, what is, I guess maybe this is not an appropriate question, but what are our options? What are our other options?
I wasn't.
A hope and a prayer, and
No, I wasn't prepared for that right now.
Okay.
I'd say let's go for it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing any other options, and if the locks are gonna be broken, but
Well, I want to keep our staff and our
Kids.
visitors safe.
you don't call them customers.
No, they're
No.
no. I don't want them to be customers. No repeat customers.
Yeah, I'd say move forward. I'm not seeing any.
Yeah.
okay,
No, I'm good.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Look forward to my roses. I want only good ones.
Only good ones.
See you, Jane.
Thanks.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
There's gonna be an
But
opportunity or a question at one point.
okay. Okay. Can we have Turning Point come forward, please?
I like this part.
I love this part. I gotta say, and I don't want to sound like I'm
Wherever you
You're in the
like.
middle.
partial.
Yeah.
Right here.
You are in the spotlight.
I am so excited about this presentation.
Before we
I sent-
start, has anybody told you you're awesome today?
No, but thank
We are.
you.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
So much
Thank you.
appreciation.
Oh, and I sent the information out to the board, letting them know that you'd be here. So,
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
good morning. Do you want to introduce?
Actually, Melissa asked if she could introduce.
Oh, very cool.
Morning. I'm so sorry I'm not there, Meg, and commissioners in person. I'm homesick today.
I can
but
tell.
This is the
Thank
first
you.
time, I believe. I don't want to bring anything to you guys.
Appreciate it.
Not sharing this one. But I think this is the 5th presentation that we have. Meg, I don't know if you were able to get connected to Zoom. But you should be able to connect to the Zoom link so that you can share your presentation. I think we're just really looking forward to hearing all the things, really, really great things that Turning Point does. And if the board has any questions, I think we'll have some time for that, and I'm available as well.
So Melissa, you need to work on your introductions.
Yeah.
Who are we talking with here, Melissa?
Oh, this is Meg Quinlivan. So sorry, the executive director of Turning Point.
Good morning. You're forgiven. You don't feel well. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, thank you for allowing me to be here this morning to share about our programming. I am going to get this started.
Bless you.
It's showing off over there.
You'd have to do it with your left arm.
Okay. Yay! We got it to work. If it's okay, before I begin sharing about our programming and the numbers of people that we serve, I'd like to share a story about someone who has utilized our programming. So Joy was married for nearly 30 years to her abuser. It was a long, hard marriage. They have 2 grown children who grew up watching their mother being abused. She worked her entire life. She had a career. She had never broken a law or had been in trouble with the law, but she did go to prison for 3 years for him, because of him. She continued to make attempts to leave the marriage, and out of guilt and her culture and her religion and shame and obligation, and mainly fear, she constantly went back. In the last incident, he had abused her for over a 3-day period. She was not sure how many times, but she lost consciousness repeatedly over these 3 days. He, at one point, told her to get up and get dressed. They were going to go to the BMW dealership to pick up his car, and he needed her to drive back the other car. So when they got there, she hadn't realized how badly bruised she was. So when he stepped away, a young man at the counter said, "Do you need any help?" And she said, "I do, but he has a gun, so I need you just to quietly call the police." And they did, and they came, and he was arrested, and she was taken to the hospital. At the hospital, they gave her our hotline number. She hasn't said yet what it was about this incident that made her decide to leave him once and for all. but she came into shelter. We were able to provide transportation. Typically, someone stays in our shelter for 30 days. They can stay up to 90 days or beyond. Joy was in our shelter for 137 days. She started going to counseling. That's something I'm very proud of. We have entered into a partnership with St. Martin's, and they are providing therapists, and they are seeing our clients, the women and moms and children, on a weekly basis. She was one of the first ones to receive that therapy. She has worked closely with our advocates. She is in a home that our funding has paid for. She is scheduled to have her divorce this month. She has healed. When she came to us, she had a broken nose, broken cheekbones, she had broken ribs, and she was covered in bite marks. She healed physically, and she's on her way to healing emotionally. And our advocates have helped her to rebuild her credit, or build credit at all. She was never allowed to have it in her name. And she has started a cleaning business in Mason County. And she is very proud, and she is feeling strong. And she says for the first time in her life that she can sleep at night. So I just wanted to share, as a reminder of who it is that comes to stay in our shelter and utilize her programming. So I thought I would just share some trends of Washington State. The numbers, it's 59.8% of all crimes, and this was published in 2024, made up domestic violence numbers. And again, this is across our state. Of the 16,000 some odd violations for no contact protection orders, 76% were domestic violence. And then 547 incidents involved firearms. Children were residents of these households in 43% of these domestic violence incidents. And this increases the probability that children may grow up to either abuse or to be in partnerships with abusive people. Our history, we started with a coalition in 2000. We had a major campaign in 2008 and built the domestic violence shelter. We have increased programming through the years, and as recent as this year, we began with our therapy services. We are Mason County's only state-certified domestic violence provider and state-accredited sexual assault provider, and we're the second largest domestic violence shelter in our state. So not only are we able to provide for our community, but we also provide for survivors throughout our state. And that's pretty wonderful, considering how small of a county we are. We're able to take care of our neighboring counties. I'm very proud of that. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 7 men have experienced rape, physical violence, verbal abuse, stalking from an intimate partner in their lifetime. We provide a 24-hour crisis line so that individuals can call in and receive resources and support and advocacy. A lot of times our callers, they're not quite sure if they're experiencing abuse or not, and so they can talk about those things and receive information. And safety plans. We do hundreds and hundreds of safety plans with survivors each day. Last year, we responded to 4,152 hotline calls, and so far this year, we have received 1,234 calls. And again, those are individuals that are calling in for services. Our emergency shelter, that's our largest program. We, last year, provided emergency shelter to 247 individuals. That's 147 heads of household and 127 dependents. 136 of those clients moved into permanent housing, and I'm very happy to say that 32 of those moved into Turning Point housing that Turning Point was able to support through funding. This year, we have provided shelter to 20 guests, 10 heads of household for this quarter. So through November, December, and into January, our shelter experienced a lot of illness. The families continued. We had at one point, we had walking pneumonia and norovirus and. However, we were able to move our guests into hotels, utilizing hotel vouchers through funding so that we could continue to take care of them, but separate all of them to give them time to get well. So now that what a horrific flu season is ended, except maybe Melissa, poor thing, we are bringing folks back into shelter. So we imagine that those numbers will go back up.
But you did the right thing.
Oh, we had to.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were so
Protecting
sick.
our staff.
And our staff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the staff continued to get sick.
Our
And
Petri dishes.
yeah. And it was those little kids, those little germ
Right.
spreaders. They were at daycare and at school, just giving it back and forth. So we were so grateful for the hotel vouchers. Legal advocacy supported 399 clients last year with legal advocacy and nearly 100 people this year. And so we provide court accompaniment, safety planning, court navigation, and we are able to support them just as we do Joy. So we went with Joy and supported her when she retained her protection order, and the advocates will go again with her when she goes for her divorce. Children and Youth Services. We served 602 children and youth last year. That's approximately 160 so far this year. And again, not all of our children and youth live in our shelters, so they come to us through other programming, and we provide advocacy that way. Sexual assault advocacy is centered on services to encourage empowerment. And so we provide hospital response for SANE exams. We provide transportation, as Mason County is not providing that service at this time. So our advocates will take survivors to neighboring counties for support. Last year, we provided support to 287 sexual assault survivors. Our crime victim services. This program works with women and men and children and youth who have been trafficked. We serve victims of sexual exploitation, and we work to intervene and to educate. And Turning Point offers solutions and resources. The uniqueness about this particular program is that the mobile advocate is able to go and meet them where they're at physically and emotionally. Community resources. We have a mobile advocate that provides community resources. These are individuals who seek our services and they're non-residential. This year, we have 137 survivors that have been served this quarter. They Sometimes will come to Turning Point. Most times the mobile advocate will go to them to provide the various services. Our support groups. We've grown our support groups to meet the needs of the community, and I'm happy to say that there were 174 clients that attended support groups last year, most of them attending weekly. We provide the groups twice a week. And then 60 clients, and they're the same people, are attending this year. So our latest is the online group. We have folks that live way out, and it's difficult for them to get in. So we have made that work so that it's HIPAA compliant, and it's very well received and is being attended very well. I really like this quote because it explains the intersection of domestic violence and homelessness. Most survivors will go back to their abuser if they're unable to remove barriers, and the number one barrier is housing. Our housing program, we have always provided resources, but it was in 2023 that we received HUD funding through our partnership with Safe Place. And then it was last year that we were awarded additional HUD funding. And so now we receive our own HUD grant as well as continue to receive the HUD funding. Last year, we housed 32 clients. No, I'm sorry, that's this year. 32 clients, and 7 of those are housed in our programming. So, education. We have provided community prevention education throughout the county. And we're providing prevention education for children and youth at the YMCA, and we're working with the schools, and so hopefully we'll be there as well. We also have been invited to provide prevention education in Kitsap schools. This quarter, we provided that education to 1,040 students. So that's pretty wonderful. The education consists of what healthy boundaries look like, red flags, how to break up safely with a safety plan, who to go and talk to. And so the youth are very interested in this and very involved, and it's been very successful at the YMCA. And we value that partnership. Our funders are Mason County, DSHS state funding that funds our shelter. We also receive OCVA, VAWA, OVW, STOP, FISPA, HUD, private foundations, and funding from the private sector. Every day at Turning Point, we witness survivors' dignity, and we celebrate their victories, and it's through this programming that we are able to do that. So thank you. Do you have any questions?
Lots of comments, but
I got comments too, but
any questions, Pat? Then we'll move to comments.
Well, the only one that jumped to mind, I think you said that 59% of all violent crimes are domestic violence?
Yeah, in our state. So that was reported, there was an uptick, it was 43.7. And then in 2023, and that's published in 2024, violent crimes went up to the 57 or 59. Yeah,
Too high.
it's pretty scary.
During COVID, they skyrocketed.
They did.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Sucks.
so you already know I'm a fan of your guys' for a long time.
Yes.
I don't hardly do anything anymore because I'm not needed. As back in the earliest days, everything was needed because nothing, you
You're
didn't
needed.
have anything. What I mean by that is, went into the facility, they had a big old round TV that didn't work, and that's all they had back in those days. Just so happened I picked up an extra one of those Christmas Black Friday things. Didn't know why I picked it up. Well, it became evident why I picked it up. I just didn't know. It was for you guys at the time. Then as I'm sitting there and I'm trying to figure out, just so you know, my family has a history of stuff. So we all have our different things that we view everything through. And one of the things you find out when you're trying to help out back in the earliest days is just how little there was. They had very little proteins back then.
Yeah.
So I literally was going out and buying cases of meat and stuff like that. It was all quiet. We just did what we needed to do and would bring that. And then while you're helping to do that, you're sitting there and you're delivering, some lady pulls up in a truck or a SUV, and her kids are all coming out. They all got PJs and no shoes on, and she's got no shoes on. And all her stuff is wrapped up in blankets because that's the only thing they could do was throw things onto the bed as quick as they could to get it out the door, to get it into that vehicle, to try and get them there safe. Used to be a van load from front to back with gifts every year. But then one year, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's a good thing. Then one year, wasn't needed. Then one year, well, because they had it. It's not a bad thing, it was a beautiful
wonderful.
thing. So I showed up, I had this whole van full of stuff, and they didn't need it because they had so much from the community. It just was, so I took it and did it elsewhere. The meats and stuff were no longer needed because they found people and things that were supplying the money for it. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I've watched you guys grow from barely surviving
Yeah.
to where you're thriving.
Yes.
And I can tell you right now, it's not a lot of opportunity when somebody gets in trouble. A woman, and I know men too, but a woman gets in trouble and she has her kids. No matter where they're at, you can't just take them to your sister's house anymore
No.
because they come to the sister's house.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
This is a very safe and protected thing that you guys have created in order to keep them, in some circumstances, alive. As we had the one woman beat to death with head injuries, 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And that helped to start the conversations about getting something in North Mason. It's sad that that's what starts those conversations, but it is the reality of it. So the only thing I'm going to say is, as somebody that's been around for a long time and watch you guys, I can't do nothing more than just thank you, because there's so many people that you guys touch, so many children that will have an opportunity, and you'll never know because they're all of a sudden successful.
Yeah.
And that's just how it works. They either are or they're not. You've given them great opportunity. So have you, Commissioner. I'm going to give you
Thank you
benefits
for
also.
sharing that.
Yeah, because you've been on that board now for years, and you hear me over and over again. I always try to tout that because that's a very, very important thing to be on, because the effect you have on their lives affects a lot of our lives, a lot of our kids' lives, or times that we may not get in trouble because we're going trying to protect them. So just know that you're appreciated for that, as are you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I could go on for hours about Turning Point and the struggles that we had in the past and where we are and how many amazing families we've helped, not just women, but families that we've
Yes.
helped. And our board, holy cow, we have an amazing board. So I really want to make sure that we thank them
Absolutely.
between the board and the staff. And I'm so happy you're with us too. And
Thank you.
I've said that before, but if I could scream it off the rooftop, I would, because you have been a definite blessing
Thank
to
you very
Turning Point,
much.
and I appreciate you a lot. But Turning Point
You
is
as
so
well.
important, and it's kind of neat how Turning Point has. We're different than other nonprofits, but we all work together, and I think that that's the important thing to understand is how well Turning Point and other nonprofits, not one could do it alone.
No,
And so together we make a solid team.
I agree. I agree. We have some incredible partnerships in this community and working together to take care of our constituents
Yeah,
and
yeah.
making a difference.
Very thankful for those that founded Turning Point.
Yes.
So
Yes. And then I'd like to say that as there has been growth and there have been those years that we've had an abundance, and so we were able to say thank you, but no, it's looking different now. As of today, our funding for the shelter is cut in half. Other funding, we know that it's cut at least 40%, it may be more, and then there's funding that we may not receive at all. So the board and I are working together to look at different ways that we can continue programming and continue to serve those who need us most.
You know, I gotta say, it's unfortunate, and I'm trying to say this in the nicest way, because I could use a lot of very colorful language, but it's unfortunate that those that are in charge at the state and the federal level cannot see the importance of programs like this, and they'd rather stick it in their little, okay, I'll stop. But it is truly unfortunate that
Because
the
clearly
real
we're
needs
needed.
are not looked at.
Yeah, and there are some amazing organizations in our community, in our state, but they're not all trained in the same way to support survivors. There's a lot to it, and it's more than just a shelter. And so I'm
Victims
hoping,
advocates can't just go out. They have to be trained and certified.
and the barriers are different.
Yeah.
I always remember one of the biggest needs they had back in the day, and I'm sure it's still the same. When they would come in, aside from feminine products and stuff like that, two things that they didn't have back then, and they were always begging for: slippers, because sometimes these women show up with nothing. The floors are cold; they have nothing. Just be able to have slippers, and blankets. The reason the reason why it was given to me was a little different. When you come in with nothing, that blanket may be the only hug you're getting.
Yeah.
It literally makes them feel safe and secure, wrapped up in their blanket in their room, by themselves or with their children. And
That's still true today.
this is still,
Yeah. Yes. Anything else?
Not for me.
yeah, if there's ways we can help, please reach out. In my humble opinion, that's all it is. Just one person, one commissioner here. But I've always found that you guys have done very well with the money. Whenever you have it, you've never wasted it, and it's never come back to haunt us or for us to be embarrassed for what we've done. I wish I could say the same for other nonprofits. It doesn't always work that way. But yours has always been exceptional.
Rock stars, right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Actually, we're talking about going out and buying a whole bunch of capes so you guys could have your super or some capes in your drawer. We can get to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity to share.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here.
That's enough emotional stuff for one day. It's all her fault.
All right, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
because you're not a softie at
No.
all. No.
It's so funny because I'm an a-hole till I'm not. But
Yeah.
once you get through, that's why the Chihuahua barks so loud, trying to keep you awake because he can't handle it.
But this is, it's very real, and it's real for so many people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yep.
so most of our donors are those that have experienced domestic violence or sexual assault, or they love someone that has.
Yep.
It affects every family.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I've not met a family that has not been affected by domestic violence.
And sadly, a lot of people that live in our shelter are generational. So they'll live in their shelter, and then their children come back and live in the shelter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in fact, some of our staff have done that. They've become staff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it makes them huge hearts.
Yeah. So,
But thank you so much.
all right, thank you.
And I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anything for Dave?
Things are changing. Just like Meg was saying, just since Friday, things change. Grants change. Simple things like we found out just today that our contract for our courier that transports our TB tests and rabies tests and stuff up to lab was canceled. and we just found out after the fact. So we're having to put together something in place to handle getting those things to the state lab. So there's lots of stuff happening very quickly.
You know, local government is amazing. Anything up above, I question. You might be a little biased, but
Yeah,
been there,
last
done that.
summer I drove samples to the lab myself, and I hope we don't have to go back to that. You
Yeah,
know.
for sure, for sure. Anything for Dave?
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
All right. Hey, Eric, we hear you fine and dandy, loud and clear. That's okay. We still love you. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Speaking of,
Yes. Well, last time we spoke
speaking of
was,
changes.
yes, was March 10th, about some options in order to ensure compliance with that new initiative, 2066, that was voted back in November. However, it was brought to my attention, and which I brought to legal's attention, that on March 21st, which was just last Friday, a judge overturned and found that that initiative was unconstitutional. And therefore, you know, kind of takes away our nexus in order to kind of make those changes that we were hoping to do in order to gain compliance. So right now, with my recommendation, along with talking with Tim and his team, is that we hold off currently and let the appeals process take its course, and then kind of regroup and see where we are there to bring this forward. So I just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention, that way you weren't waiting and wondering what I was doing in the meantime. However, I do have my ear to the ground, and any changes or updates, I'll definitely make sure I bring those to you. But again, currently where we are is just a holding pattern until the dust settles, if I may, and see where we are at the end.
I keep open, go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, for the sake of people that may not know what you're talking about.
Yes, I'm sorry
it's
about that.
the-
Yeah, so update is, so we talked once again on March 10th about the new initiative requiring the natural gas independence or gas independence. The current energy code disincentivizes or discourages the use of those elements. And this initiative was trying to clear the way so that we had multiple options. So with that, the codes are very specific of not breaking state law or contradicting it, which this initiative, along with the code, did. So it gave us and other local jurisdictions an opportunity to rectify that, since the State Building Code Council, was just going to kind of let us play its course and let the new codes get adopted. Leaving it once again to us to figure that path out. Last time we had 3 options, and I think as we discussed, there was more to go about. However, here we are now with that initiative kind of being paused, if I may. I don't think it's thrown out, but once again being found unconstitutional. We don't have that nexus, and I don't want to move forward and then leave ourselves vulnerable for then breaking, you know, the RCW 20 or 1927 in regards to what we are required to adopt and how we go about that. So sorry for that update there.
I knew what you're talking
Yes,
about.
but the Zoom world may not have. So that's where we are. Again, I'll keep my ear to the ground. The appeals process, as we're probably all well aware, could take quite a bit of time. But any updates on that, I will definitely ensure I'm communicating with Mark along with Tim to make sure that we are not making ourselves vulnerable, but also making sure we're doing what's right for both, you know, Mason County and just its builders and other our shareholders in that regard. So
So Josh, you're a rock star, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you, you know, bringing this in and where you stand on it. I'm just asking you the same thing I'll ask you again. Keep looking,
I will.
take their thumb off of us wherever you see an opportunity. I
Okay.
can't wait for you to bring me those opportunities.
yeah, I'll keep scouring. So far, I haven't come up with any, but I know things are always evolving and changing, and the voice of the people is getting louder. So hopefully that'll
Well,
encourage
remember,
some changes
sometimes
moving forward.
it is working within the words, but accomplishing other things when needed. You definitely know how to think outside the box. So
Yeah, and I'll do that along with you know, still relying on Tim's counsel and so on to make sure. Once again, I don't want to put us in a vulnerable
And
situation.
as for myself,
as well.
I'm willing to take risks with you because you're smart enough to where you're not going to put us in jeopardy for nothing. It'll be a real benefit. And sometimes you have to take a stand and step up where others may not.
Yeah,
There's always a first mover. So
there is, and I'll do that if it's appropriate. However, I just once again don't want to put ourselves in a
Nope,
in
you're
a vulnerable situation or leave us out to dry in a sense. So
So during this interim, during this summer, before next session starts, let's work with OMB and BIAW and see if we can come up with some bill language. If it's overturned,
Okay.
let's provide bill language to the legislature so that they can move something forward, so that we can make it
Yeah,
right.
I agree. And I know those are two big advocates that are definitely leading the charge in the appeal. But yes, if I have any chance to kind of bend their ear and or maybe discuss language, I definitely will do that. I know we have an upcoming meeting with OMB, so that may be a good opportunity where myself, along with other building officials, are in a room together and hopefully can brainstorm. I know we all feel very passionate about it and have the same feel. So hopefully that'll be echoed, and if it does go back to legislation, hopefully it's written in a way that it doesn't get thrown out, and
Right.
we can find a path forward. So
Right, and we'll make the title very narrow so
In-
that they can't.
yes,
change it a
and that's
lot.
what it seems like the main reason for throwing it out is log rolling was one of the terms they used, and what was the other term? Single subject rule. So they believe this one was filled with a lot of other elements, I think all related. However, I think what they're putting their finger on is it was confusing for individuals at the ballot box, and therefore overturned it. So to your point,
I'm
keep
sure
it
that's
simple,
what it
and
was.
maybe, yeah, I'm sure that was too.
Since the experts in making things.
Yeah. So hopefully, if that's the case, maybe they approach it with a few different bills to hopefully eliminate this in the past or in the future. But here we are, and once again, I'll keep you guys updated as soon as I hear anything. So
And I know we have some amazing board members on those, also OMB and BIAW
yes,
from Mason County, so.
yeah, and like I said, they're also very passionate about this as well. So I think we have a good team to advocate for it. So hopefully, again, the process is going to take its time because that's the way it always seems to go. But hopefully there's some resolution and a path forward that we can continue down this. I'm also glad that we didn't implement something and now have to pull it back just to the mixed message or the
Yeah, like other
confusion and
counties
so
do.
on. So I guess the timing, if it was going to happen, was right. So for that, so
Yeah, I appreciate you.
yeah.
A lot.
So I appreciate you guys' time, and again, I'll keep you updated as the updates come in.
Thank you.
So alrighty,
Thank you very much.
thank you so much. Yes.
Anything else for community development?
I think that's it.
No? Anything for? Okay,
Thanks again.
you're welcome, thank you. Oh
She
gosh, who
takes
do
a
we have
deep breath
next?
as she says it. Like,
Walking's getting tired. That's all.
Are you hungry?
angry.
I'm not hangry
She's
quite
not
yet,
hangry
but I'm
yet.
definitely getting hungry.
All right, Mark.
Thank you. Yeah, so first item on the list is we wanted to sit down with the commission and talk about your approach to proclamations. I know that we've had some discussions about certain proclamations, and there was a general discussion as to whether we even wanted to do proclamations in the future. And so I wanted to give the commissioners an opportunity to discuss your individual opinions about that and how you'd like us to move forward.
Who wants to go first?
I'm happy to go first. The particular proclamations I stated my problems with. I think Sharon brought it up that, maybe we shouldn't do proclamations at all. I don't really have a problem with that. I'm not sure that proclamations are things that we should be doing. That's not necessarily a function of this branch of government. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
One way we can go about it if we decide to do that is we can take the year off and see how that works and look at it again at the beginning of next year and see if it was really a function, but at the same time we allow somebody to bring it forward and we can discuss it if we think it's important, but not deny them the ability to come and speak. If they've got a proclamation that's theirs that they want to make, we give them 3 minutes and they're welcome to come and speak to the public using our venue. But again, just an idea on my point.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all.
Oh, no, absolutely. The public has absolute right to come and speak.
I just want to make sure that what we do as a commission has an effect. I'm tired of doing things that you get up and you say, oh, it's this week, or it's this week, and that's all we say. There's no action put to a proclamation, in my opinion, and so that's where my difficulty comes to the proclamations, is we read it and then it's forgotten. Or it's, why do we do it if there's not a purpose? Yes?
Oh, well, I mean, for example, like the Operation Greenlight for Veterans, we
Right.
turn our buildings green.
Right.
So we do have a process for that one.
Mhm.
And I mean, there are, small concerns of just, like, maybe with that one, if we don't do that, how are certain individuals in the community going to feel?
Right, so is there a way to maybe not do a proclamation, but to a recognition? And I understand that's what the proclamation is all about, is the recognition. I guess what I'm saying is, I just don't wanna do something just because.
In that particular, just trying to think outside the box, in that particular situation, Kelly can come right before the thing and say that we want to recognize being Kelly, because he recognizes from his committee that he does, and he's the one that puts all the lights up. We want to recognize that we in the county were doing this, this, and this. And it doesn't have to be a proclamation from us. We just allow them to come up, but because I worry about, those are the things that I worry about. But at the same time, there are ways to get it come about it. And I had thought about it. If you have another veterans group, or let's just say you have that time where we're recognizing the police officers. The sheriff should be sitting right up there and saying that, I'm here today to recognize our law enforcement. This is recognized throughout the state as such and such, and we want to do it. And then we can actually make a comment if we like, because that's our choice too, that we can do, and it's done, but it's not through that other process. So again, I'm comfortable with, we can always bring something to us, because we can change anything we want. Let's say something's important and it comes to us, let's say it's that, and we decide we want to do that one, we still can. But if we put off right now for the rest of this year and see how it works out, I don't think that hurts anybody, with the idea that as soon as they call, we say, you're welcome to come and speak before the commission, or send a delegate to speak before the commission and the community.
Yeah. Well, I know that Fess, they do an amazing job. We don't do a proclamation in October for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So I think that we're not real consistent with what we do. So we either recognize it or we don't. There's no easy answer to this, I don't think, because there's some very, very, I understand why a lot of the proclamations come forward, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, after a year, we'll have figured it out, or after, 9 months, we will have figured it out, or we won't.
I'm happy to pause it for a year, that's for sure, but it always comes back, for me, it's what's the proper function of government?
I agree.
That's the question I gotta ask. Making declarations, again, I feel like, somebody punches a hole in the drywall and you put a piece of paper over it, that means you fixed it. No, you haven't done anything. And that's my concern, is we're not doing things to take care of the citizens of Mason County, but we're putting paper over a hole. It's like, we haven't done anything. And that's a problem for me.
I guess that's why I'm a board member, not as a commissioner, but a member of the board for Turning Point, because I have that passion and I want to make a difference. And that's how I personally can make a difference. There's 3 of us here. And so we may not all agree on certain things at one time. So maybe giving it a rest for a year.
And remember, we learn how to do it better. For example, during my time of my calendar and my personal time, I've been known to make comments about things. That might be a time where I make a comment about a specific thing, but not delegate the county to do it. So I think we're in agreement right now. We're going to pause for the rest of the year, and then we'll look at it in January, decide if that's the way it should be done.
So give folks the opportunity to come up during our
And give
public
us,
comment.
yeah, oh, absolutely. That's
I'm involved with a citizen group as a citizen that has to do with the founding of America and the signing of the Declaration, the 250th anniversary, which would be next year. Well, that sounds like something that would be really important, but I don't think that's something, that's not a role of government. I'm delighted that it's a citizen group that's doing all of this. It doesn't have anything to do with the county, because it's, that's, an example of where, oh yeah, it'd be great, but we don't need to do that
As a government.
as a government body.
I think we have consensus. I don't think we have to pass anything, just have consensus, and
No, so
that's what you can explain to everybody when they call. But that they're welcome to show up and.
Absolutely.
So that's the part I was just gonna reiterate, is that normally proclamations come in the form of a request from some citizenship group or individual within our community. So I think that our response to them will be, we'll invite you to a Tuesday meeting that you can actually get up during the public comment period and read your proclamation in order to recognize the specific topic that is being focused on for that period of time. And we won't be doing formal proclamations from the commission. Okay. We can do that. All right, our next item is our Child Care Partnership Program grant. Did you want to talk about this one, Mackenzie, or would you like me to?
That's up to you.
Go for it.
She's so nice until she's not. That was so kind. So
So Kevin Schutte from the Economic Development Council did bring forward a letter of support. It looks like the EDC is pursuing funding to help develop a child care strategic plan and expand available child care slots in Mason County, and was hoping to get your sign off for support.
This is something that has been brought up by our county staff as a definite need in our community. So we have individuals that have young children or about to have young children. And I think that is a challenge. I have 2 children of my own that also have kids under a year old. And it is a challenge to find quality daycare that you're comfortable with. And then once you find it, being able to afford it is another thing. Super expensive, but yeah, I think this is an opportunity that the EDC wants to go out and apply for this grant and do some strategic planning surrounding it in our community.
And you see no competition between us and any grant that this is applying for, right?
Unless the county itself wanted to pursue a child care solution. We did receive an email from a staff person out of the sheriff's office recently, but I had not heard any specific support to pursue that.
At this point, there's no competition between us,
Correct.
so
No.
I'm supportive.
Absolutely. I'm
Okay.
supportive. We need more childcare,
Great.
It'll be a
Yeah.
huge recruitment retention tool.
even if it's not with Mason County. I think that we need more childcare in general, because there's a lot of other employers out there that we need more childcare centers or childcare homes or whatever.
The wait lists are impressive.
Yes, yeah, and the cost is not going down.
No.
So I'm excited to see what the EDC can do.
Okay.
So is there anything we can do as a county government to make it easier to enter that field? Because there seems to be a lot of restrictions on someone becoming, being involved in childcare industry, if you will.
I wish Dave was still here because I think this is definitely a public health topic, but what I am aware of are mostly state requirements. So the state has many requirements. Oh, there he is. Dave, do you want to talk about the requirements for a child care facility?
Yeah, so most of the child care facility requirements are pushed down from the state. So, and they're very tight. It makes it difficult when you have, they're typically not well-paid positions, but yet they require a degree and more certifications than just a degree. So it puts the childcare facility in a quandary. How much can you charge to pay for that person, and how many kids can you have? But then the government says how many kids that person can supervise. So it's a quantity and math thing that it's a difficult thing to crack. You know, so for example, infants, I think the ratio is like 1 to 5. You know, it might be less. I'd have to go look at that. But as the kids will get a little older, you can have a teacher that supervises more. But when they're very small, that ratio is very low.
Yeah, hey, Dave, would you mind reaching out to the EDC, to Kevin, and working with him on this grant as well? Because I bet you could provide some insight. Well, if we can help him get a grant to open up the possibilities of childcare, whether it's through the county or elsewhere, that would be very beneficial for our employees, I think.
Okay. All right, do that.
I think the other thing that often is requested by young parents is alternative schedules. So depending on the work that they do, may depend on our ability to provide an alternative schedule. You know, it's really hard when you're providing direct customer service to individuals that come into the county to say you're going to work something other than 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, because that's when we serve the public. So it really depends on the position, but I do think that at least I've seen and heard of individuals that have young children wanting to have an alternative schedule. If they could cut out 1 day a week, although a lot of the daycares, there's a requirement. I mean, you sign up and you're basically it's available for 5 days a week. Even whether you use it or not, you're going to pay for 5 days a week. So
Because they have to have the staff.
correct. Yeah. So it's definitely a challenge, and I feel for them, and would love to see if EDC can help initiate some more opportunities here in Mason County. So we will
Maybe
do
something we should talk to WASAC about.
It's on the, it's a topic for sure.
I actually have a county administrator conference coming up here next week, and so that is a topic that we're going to be talking about there. So I'll see what some of the other counties are doing.
It's on our priority list for WASAC.
The next item I have on our list is our Mary Ranciers being recognized. So I got a notification about a month ago from South Sound Business that Mary was nominated, and they selected her to be recognized as one of the 40 under 40 members of our community.
That's pretty awesome.
So yeah, so on April 15th, they are having.
I agree with them, by the way.
Yeah, so on April 15th from 5:30 to 7:30, they're having a recognition ceremony up in Tacoma at the Foss Waterway Seaport, I think they call it. It's 705 Dock Street in Tacoma. And if you'd like to attend, there is a flyer that where tickets can be purchased to this. And Mary will, I'm assuming Mary's planning on going to be recognized in person.
Yes. I'm bringing my daughter. These look good for her to see.
Please share that information, because I might want to try and be there.
Okay, I'll look forward to it.
What was the date again?
April 15th.
Tax day.
Tax day, right?
Well, that's just
That's funny.
a good day to be celebrating something other than taxes.
Right?
That's both my half birthday and the celebration for cancer. It's a busy day.
Good day.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, send us the information.
Okay. I've got a
Day
flyer, I can send that to you for it.
So that's a Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah, super proud of her, and I think it's neat that others can see the work that she's done and for her to be recognized for it. So congratulations, Mary.
Thank you.
The next item I have on the list is a letter of support that we received from PD3. It was a request. They were going after some congressional dollars. So there is discretionary funds that each one of our congressmen have, and they were requesting that from Senator Murray. So the timeline was such that I needed to get that turned around fairly quickly, and so instead of having the commissioners sign it, wrote the letter of support and signed it. It is for an upgrade to the infrastructure of some of their substations. So they need more capacity in a number of different areas. I think specifically this one is out on 102 over by the port. We definitely have seen a lot of interest in development within that area. In fact, we just sold some property over there. I think that would benefit from additional power supply, and so it was a no-brainer to be able to support that request.
I thought we talked about this already.
I think
Maybe
it
you
was
and
a
I
different one.
talked about.
It was a different one. I did come around and try and talk to commissioners individually about it before I signed it and sent off to make sure you weren't concerned. But there's no competition for money that we were requesting, and it's definitely something that we've been very supportive of in the past.
PUD one just had a letter of support
Yes.
That's
request.
the one. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Close.
Those PUDs.
And I think that PUD ones is actually on the agenda for tomorrow. So you will see PUD ones on there. All right, any questions on the letter of support? The next item I have is a discussion on the potential Bremerton interlocal agreement for sewer service. So Richard Dickinson is here to help me answer any questions that you guys might have. So this is something that we've talked a little bit about back and forth. We just had a government-to-government meeting with the Squaxin tribe on the 21st. This was a major topic of that discussion with them. And the city of Bremerton is asking, hey, what is the county going to do here? And I think the last time we came to the board in a regular board meeting, the response was, why would we allow the city of Bremerton to write a potential ILA and submit it to us? Since we have what they want, why don't we write the ILA? So Loretta, who normally would be here, but she's actually on a well-deserved vacation this week with her family. Just to keep this going, I said I could sit down with Richard and we could answer any questions you guys have and get some direction from you. So you'll see a draft ILA in there that really just kind of outlines the basics of our utility, the capacity that we have, what we're currently permitted for, what is being requested by the city of Bremerton. And then you'll also see on there some opportunities for how should we move forward on this. So one of the questions I think that was asked was, what would we charge an individual for hookup fees and for utility services in Bremerton? Richard has kind of put together some numbers. If you were to talk to Bremerton, when they serve people outside of their city, they charge them a 50% surcharge. So we could add a 50% surcharge to the dollar amount. We could add some funds to our current connection fees that are a little over $11,000 per connection. Some of this would be, I think some of this could helpfully be determined using the funds that are in the Commerce Grant. So the city of Bremerton received a $3 million grant. 1.4 million would be a sub-recipient to Mason County to go and determine any expansion needs we would have within our current facility, so predominantly the spray field. And also we need to add some additional filters. Those funds could also be used for helping us determine what would that look like, right, in terms of rates and doing that whole rate analysis for that area. I think that there's some potential mitigation efforts that there's some concern about. If development occurred up in Bremerton, how could that potentially impact our Belfair area? Belfair is one of the largest sales tax revenue production areas of Mason County. So it is not the city of Belfair, it is unincorporated Mason County, but it is within an urban growth area. And so when talking to individuals from Bremerton and kind of trying to understand what's zoned in this area, I think it is open for a lot, right? So I know that the Suquamish tribe is wanting to build some infrastructure up there. I'm not exactly sure what the end goal is there. I think I've heard a lot of different things about it, everything from from a gas station to a casino, really. So obviously, gas stations and casinos produce very different sewer flows. So that is something that we've heard about. Also, talking about this industrial area that this sewer service would be serving, I think it's open for industrial, retail, commercial. So there definitely could be retail that was developed within this area that would potentially negatively impact Belfair. Do we write something? Does the commissioners want us to write something in an agreement that would require the city of Bremerton to share some of those revenues with Mason County? That's something that we can discuss. The other items that I've heard the commissioners talk about specifically is what's the benefit to Mason County, right? And so we've calculated what does it look like for 160,000 gallons a day? What does that look like in terms of the number of ERUs? How much money would that potentially bring in from a connection fee? And then what does that monthly revenue look like for service when they do hook up? And how much would that cost? A topic that we discussed with the city of Bremerton the other day, they recently published a capital facilities plan for talking about their sewer expansion, and they had a number of different options within their plan. I think that from our discussion with the city public works director, those were high level preliminary options.
Yep, super high level.
Yeah, so kind of one of the concerns that I had was it looks like you're developing a, future plans that you then just disconnect, right, from Mason County, and what does that look like going into the future? So if in fact you did connect in that area, would there be an obligation for them to continue to utilize the Belfair plant for servicing that area? So that was a topic or discussion that we had. If the commission wants to continue discussing this item, that's, I guess, my first question for you is, do you want us to continue discussing this ILA? If you want us to continue discussing the ILA, then I think it's time that we have a government-to-government meeting with the city of Bremerton to talk about some of these expectations that Mason County commissioners have in terms of, if we did provide you service, here's what we would want in return. And so I need some direction from the commission on how you'd like me to move forward on that.
Go first.
If you want. Okay, so again, it's no secret, this is not beneficial to my community, even to Mason County in my eyes. I've been around for a long time. I've watched this thing from the beginning before it was ever even opened. I was involved in it. I've been involved with every aspect of it and trying to save it and bring it back from $18 million debt to where we are. Every aspect of it I know greatly, but even more so, I know the impact that it's had on my community and the impacts that it could have on my community that's up there. I am still don't believe that it's a proper fit for many different reasons. One, where is the benefit? So we get a few dollars in order to go for a plan that we actually already have money put away for a plan. We can continue to get money to put away for a plan that I don't think we need yet. We need to argue on what is even going to be needed there. In order to do that, we give away our future. That doesn't make sense to me. We give away our sales tax. We got to make up for it somewhere. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why we would ever consider being our own competition or supporting our own competition. It never makes sense to me. Our businesses depend on us protecting them and watching out for them, not giving them special services, but just giving them a flat, even footing for which to compete. And once they start competing with the city who's moved over to our boundary, there is no competition. Look at every city. They can change things quickly and create huge buildings that are still going to impact our traffic in ways we never would have even imagined. If we do it ourselves and it's on our side, then at least we have the control on how we do it and what the impact will be and how to mitigate it for the people that continue to drive up and down that road. It's a huge burden to put on them. But the one thing that's even more unimaginable is that we would put all that burden on them and they not benefit from it. They may get a few dollars for Belfair, but 22 to 25,000 Mason County residents drive through that every day. So we benefit Belfair for 5 years or whatever, if we do. Because I want to point one thing out. We talk about these potential uses. What if instead of 1,000, what if it's 50 that we get for the first 5 years? But yet that 50 is huge development of a shopping center or something that crushes Belfair. Then not only did we get nothing, we crushed our community for nothing. I say our community because it's not Belfair it crushes Mason County. Belfair may be able to benefit by getting a few dollars to keep that rate down, but all of Mason County gets hit with the lack of that sales tax. When that sales tax goes away, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, because it's not a big factor. Belfair is the big generator of sales tax in this county. None of the other ones even compete. Shelton, remember, keeps their own. We got to make up that money somewhere. We're already looking at making up money. I don't know how you make up more money when we start giving away our opportunities. Although it'd be nice to have more businesses that might be right there in Kitsap, like a Costco. I don't think there's going to be one that would be built there, but I'm just giving that as an example. It might be beneficial to the community. It can never be built on Belfair if we give it to Bremerton. And where's our benefit for this county and for our investment? I myself, again, I think it's a wholly bad idea. And then on top of that, one of the things we've never talked about, we talk about how to give this to them for free and collect a little bit here and there, but nobody's ever talked about what we should actually sell a big percentage of that for. Now, why would we sell it? Now, although I'm not a fan and I still don't like it, let's say we sold, they're looking at $65 to $83 million for them to do it. Let's say we sell $20 million worth of capacity. We could possibly take that $20 million and unify our districts, our sewer systems, and we can offset by unifying and bringing them all underneath the same umbrella, because we've talked about doing that before. You can offset some of those deficits that we have for the next 10, 20 years. That at least would benefit Mason County, because we end up paying for a lot of that stuff. But I still don't think that that's beneficial to the businesses in Belfair and everything else. You would lose those. With this, one of the things I thought we asked was that you would go back to Commerce and see if an ILA like this was even needed. But what you've done on this, the work that you've done on it is admirable for you guys on Loretta and stuff. I want to point that out. I hope that we don't do this, but if we do it, I would love to have some time to go and talk to our attorney, because a couple of things that I think would be beneficial to change. If you look under the recitals under F, instead of saying following procedural items are required prior to serving, should the county agree, it should say it should mutually agree, because you're going to find over and over again that's a mistake that's made, where if one agrees, it still goes forward. It has to be mutually agreed or mutual, but they also say mutually denied in the end. Should both parties agree that the engineering result doesn't benefit? Well, what if one party does? Things like that are pretty scary. There's another thing here: connection fees, charges in such a manner that adequately reflect significant county investment. Again, why would I want to just get my county investment back? That doesn't even make sense. If you're an investment means that you're hoping for a return. Now, a $5 return is not a return on the investment. If we go out, we do this, and we lose all those millions, and all we do is get 50 ERUs up there, but it's a shopping center and stuff like that, there's no benefit. Even the apartments, that might be great up there. We'll deal with all the traffic issue, but we don't have any say in it. If we're going to have apartments, they need to be on our side of the line. Well, they won't be on our side of the line. At least there's a chance that they won't be on our side of the line if we have to compete with ourselves. It is a greater chance it's going to be on our side of the line, because they don't have the ability to build it there if we're not competing with ourselves. So also another thing under the developmental and the aspects that are allowed, I'd like to say, and eventually if we do something like this, talk about restrictions, because the idea of having that up there, which I don't see as a benefit, and not having restrictions on things that would be in direct competition with us. As a business person, I never make that business decision for on my business, because it would crush my business. Even if it wouldn't crush my business, if it takes 5% of my business, it takes 5% of my business. There's no benefit for me to do that. Chevy's not going to go ahead and allow Ford to use all their workers and stuff, and to use their plants to make their car. They're in competition. So with that being said, I am solely, completely against this. I do believe when the tribe was telling us that they're laughing at us, why wouldn't they? We're not even asking them to buy it. We're just saying we give it to them. We'll charge them as they come on. So they come on and they get one ERU and they'll give us an extra $1,000 or something. How is that beneficial? So where they get the 50. and we get an extra $50,000 or $100,000, but we lose more than that sales tax, even with a small business. One gas station would devastate us for that much money. Where's our benefit? I want to be good neighbors, but I'm not a globalist. I'm not. I'm a local guy who believes that I'm elected to represent only my local community, not what Bremerton or Kitsap County can benefit from our community. I know for a fact they would never give us theirs. Why do I know that? They talked about it up north when it came to the water systems and stuff all those years ago. Not a chance, because they're competition with each other. But we somehow have continued to move forward. And if we're doing it just to dance for the money, we'll pay for that dance, because you're never going to get enough to where it's beneficial to collect that 1.4. But again, if we do, I just hope we protect ourselves the best way that we can. And I'd still like to know if Commerce is saying we have to have this ILA in order to do it. So,
They are.
Okay, they are?
We did verify.
Okay, so then with that, I would rather not do it. If we do, I definitely would like a week just to try and strengthen this up for our county to make sure that we're protected. I think they did good work. Just so you know, I'm not going to slight you on it, because this is a heck of a lot better than what I saw before. But we still die. It's just, do we die tomorrow, or do we die in 5 years, or what? But we definitely can't get our money and our investment back.
Well, I'll echo that. I think you guys did a really good job of improving the writing of the agreement. It didn't seem nearly so slanted towards Bremerton as I read through it. I hear discussions about hookup fees, and I can't envision how we do a hookup fee like this remotely what we had talked about early on was, wouldn't it be easier if we're just monitoring, we're paying so many gallons are coming down the pipeline, there's a fee for that, how they hook it up. So I don't know how we ever get hookup fees and 50% surcharge on that. Well, that sounds great, but I'm not sure how we make that happen. I don't know if you've thought about that.
The hookup fee?
Yeah.
I meant a capital facility fee. Yeah, that's just like everybody else. To buy into the system. It's basically a calculation of the number of ERUs dividing into the total investment in the system. So that's where they come up with, that's usually how you come up with that number. And right now it's like 11, 13,000, something like that per ERU. So that's how they get their permit to be able to hook up to it. And we'd go out and inspect and make sure it's hooked up fine, sign off on that. But yeah, that's just the initial.
So is that
get in the game?
Is that us going up and inspecting Bremerton's stuff?
Ours would be to the point where their system hooked into ours. They'd be responsible for the O&M of their system.
Of the infrastructure within Bremerton.
Yes.
Right.
And so that also would be connection fees, that would be pre-treatment requirements, making sure that if there was pre-treatment required, that they went and inspected that to ensure it. Also, that would be managing flow, so how much flow are we receiving, as well as the quality of the sewer that we're receiving, and whether it contained any.
Yeah, I mean, both sides are gonna wanna monitor the flow level, because they're gonna say, yeah, we sent out 100,000 gallons, and we're gonna say, no, we got 120 gallons, or 120,000.
And they build theirs differently than, they're used to billing on basically how we bill water is the amount of flow that goes out. And ours is a flat fee, like a calculation of this is kind of the average. And I did do kind of how, we did the conversion for City of Bremerton and Port Orchard and all them compared to Mason County. I just stuck it out with City of Bremerton's commercial rate and their outside commercial rate and converted how they do it into ours and reversed it and put it back into theirs, and then applied different percentages to see which, like you say, those are just rates.
We do an estimated gallon though in the city of Belfair. That's how we do
Oh,
all
yeah.
commercial.
Determine the area.
Yeah, for commercial, not for residential.
Yes,
Residential's
yeah,
fine.
exactly. You've probably never seen that one before.
Nope.
couple more.
Thank you.
So this is basically that down below. This blue is us. This is, you can, I gotta show it. Yeah, this is, okay, Mason County, Safeway, Starbucks, and McDonald's, different sizes of
Sure.
how they, that's what they're getting charged right now, because that's basically what their flow is. That's their water consumption, as calculated by Belfair Water District, where we get that number. So we convert that to ERUs and charge them $108 per ERU. To get, that would be what their monthly bill is. Now on the top, that is Belfair Commercial inside outside, and you see it matches the bottom. The gray is basically how they charge. And then this is ours with a 10%, 20%, and then the bottom gray one is putting their 50% increase on it and reflecting on what our bills, or what we would charge them, compared to what we actually do charge them. So then you can see these top two. That's City of Bremerton commercial inside rate, and that's their outside rate. And it's 50% greater.
And I'd love to see what the numbers look like for the taxes on these things. How much does McDonald's bring in tax a year compared to $1,000 a month for a hookup? How much do they actually pay in sales tax?
Right, that's the part I can't.
And property tax.
I can't.
Yeah, and property tax and everything else.
Yeah, that's the part I don't have a grasp on at all. So this
I
is
think
the economics of wastewater only.
yeah, Department of Revenue calls their numbers tight
Mm-hmm.
as far as the sales tax goes, I think. Is that right, Mark?
It is, yeah. Yeah, you have to have specific authorization to get access to sales tax data. I think they do it to protect those businesses, I think, from.
Sure.
Which makes sense.
And across the top, there's the top one there. It's flow projections that build out with build out flows from PSIC areas C, D, E, and F included. And that was what we designed it for, and what they were originally asking for. And so it has basically what our gallons per day for our build out at that time, because the zoning changed with the planned action EIS. That doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter, because this is hydraulically what could fit up in there no matter what.
Boy, you look at 40 ERUs total. Those three, the amount of sales tax would be astronomical.
Yeah.
Well, I love the idea of sitting down with Bremerton so that we can understand what their goals or concerns might be, and then they can understand what our goals and concerns are. So I think that's a good plan to move forward. I do like this ILA a lot better than the other one. Not talking bad about Bremerton, but their goals and our goals are probably a lot different. One thing that I didn't see in this one that I would like to have included is ecology is a big partner, or a big part of this as well, because they're the ones that are requiring us to expand our spray field, right, currently. And so having them down, maybe not as a partner, but as a concerned entity or something like that.
They're stakeholder in it, right? I mean,
right, they are. They'll tell us yes or no. We may say, here's our plan, let's go forward with it, and ecology would say, no, not so fast.
well, that's the thing too. You can see in the middle, there's the tiniest one right in the middle. That's currently where we're at. That's our current flow, and then that we're using 62% capacity of that spray field, but that doesn't take much to get to.
Yeah, and I think regardless of what, we have to fight to change it from the spray field to actual, or from use in the plant to actual spray field use.
Yeah.
We have to fight for that, and we should, and I think the tribes would come on board to help us. That would set us out many, many years.
Oh dear.
Sorry.
Oh dear.
I never do that. Just
Yeah.
tell me I have chemo. Chemo goes over the top of everything. So one of the things I wanted to point out is, earlier we used the term potential. There's no potential. It's going to happen. The shifting of the monies and stuff. That's not a potential because there's no way. There's nothing else there. Nobody lives there. Nobody's nothing. As for the goal of Bremerton, unless they lie, which I wouldn't put it against them, because why would they tell us the truth? Their goal is to take our money, to sift the money that's coming down there from our stores into their stuff. Why wouldn't it? There's no other reason for building there. They have the whole city is down by the shipyard. For them to pull it up by us where we have nothing else there, it is only to take from us. There's nothing else to take from. So I don't think it's potential. I think putting out a food dish and not expecting people to eat from it would be unrealistic. It's not potential. It's going to happen, and their goal has to be that obvious, because what else could it be?
Well, I would hate, personally, I would hate to put words in their mouth, just like I hate that people put words, anyway, put words in my mouth that I've never said. And so I would hate to say that that was their goal, their intent, because I don't know, because we haven't sat down and spoken with them. We've not had conversations.
I think all of our, as a governmental entity, right, so city or county, I think that we all have similar goals in growth. We want more construction within our areas that we collect property tax. We want more retail in defined areas that we zone for and say this is where we're planning for development to occur, because that increases our tax base. Our general fund operates off of property tax and sales tax, and that's it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Cities have utility tax, B&O tax.
Yep.
They've got some other revenue options that can help sustain them. They always, in my career in government finance, they've always talked about counties being on a two-legged stool, and our two-legged stool is property tax and sales tax, and we don't have other sources of revenue that come in for our general fund operations. Mason County's unique. We only have one city. That means we have to provide county services to the rest of the entire geographic area of the county. It's why you have these utilities that are developed within urban growth areas to be able to provide water and sewer and basic utility type services. So yes, they're 100% think that all cities, all counties have, as long as it's planned growth and it's smart growth, we're all going to want to see growth.
Mm-hmm.
And with that,
no doubt.
by building here, they're taking it from here. That's just no way around it. Unless I'm missing something. If I am, I'd love to hear it, because I don't see any other thing. Then the other question still has never been answered. What do we really get out of this? Literally.
You get so I think that there's things that I can tell you that I know you get, right? For every connection, you'd get a connection fee. For every gallon of sewage that comes out of Bremerton and is processed in our plant, you'd get a monthly revenue out of that for the utility, right? So I think that we can clearly define.
Right.
And over a 20-year period, if they got up to the 160,000 gallons a day, we could calculate that, and I could tell you how many ERUs that is. Actually, Richard's already done it. Could tell you how many ERUs that was, and we could tell you how much money we'd collect in connection fees, depending on our charge, as well as what it would look like on monthly revenue coming into the utility.
But that's a utility, because that's a standalone fund. We don't get it.
Other things are speculation, Randy. So I think that as I've read through some of the documentation that Bremerton has recently put out, I think that they've kind of defined this need for industrial storage type space, right? So the naval base is doing some pretty major upgrades up there, and they don't have enough
Like lay down area.
lay down area, warehouse space, storage space. that will be needed during the construction time. So yes, there'll be development. So if you had industry space developed within Bremerton, would that mean that would create a demand for more residential space in Belfair? It's speculation, Randy, but I think that's where the numbers start to get soft and not, I'm not super confident with it because I can't tell you if this occurs here, this other will occur there. But I think from a general perspective of some of the research that was done in the past, that's kind of what they identified as potential growth options.
But if we did nothing and they go to the port properties, which are available, as it was shown in that same study, there's tons of port property there ready to go for that. We don't have to feed that; they feed their own. Mm-hmm. And again, that does give us the opportunity to be separated.
We actually had a proposal from a landowner in Belfair area that wanted to build large commercial storage space just for that, right? Just to be able to provide that, and it's in Belfair. It's right just north of the Mason Transit Authority, so that we kind of had a pre-planning conference on what that would take, and it's not a big sewer user, right? So that's the other issue. If you get big industrial space, like look at the Amazon fulfillment center that they have up there. I would imagine when you look at the square footage of developed property there, that the amount of sewage generated per square foot is probably pretty small, right? So they have some restrooms for their employees, but they're not creating they're not creating water that then needs to be treated or sewer that needs to be treated. So it depends on what's developed, and we don't know. But yes, any development that occurs up in Bremerton, you are 100% correct that's going to add to their property tax revenue, and potentially, depending on the type of facility that's built, it may also add to their sales tax.
And speculation gave us the plant that we have.
Well, the growth speculations for Belfair, sure. Yeah, we had some. I've been through a couple of utilities in my career that have gone through this. One down in Rochester and for Thurston County, very similar issue there, where there was this expectation that if you build this infrastructure, that development is just automatically going to come down to the area, and they had these projections over a 10-year period. Well, I don't even think that that was probably 20, 25 years ago, and they still haven't reached the projections that they thought might occur within the first 10 years.
So just, originally when it was designed in Mason County's work on it was tiny, it was much smaller. But then our guy went on vacation to Alaska, came back, and there was a whole new company called CH2M, so huge they can find $1 billion and pay it, designing a plant in Belfair. Things were already wrong. The community back then fought and said, you're not building it for Belfair, you're building it for Bremerton, and it's not right. Oh, we promise you that's not what we're doing. But here we are, all these years later, going against everything they were promised. Because they were promised that it wasn't. But it was obvious, to me included at the time, that's what they were trying to do. But we did a great job as a county of pulling that thing out of the fire, financing it up, getting it refinanced on the private market. We did so many different things, we got it paid off to where we don't have much debt. The debt we have in PF 27, the only other debt we have is the little bit of debt we just picked up by doing the expansion. We've done incredible things with it from a plant that was collapsed.
And when you refinanced the debt, you took it off of the books of off the backs of ratepayers within Belfair and put it on the general obligation. Right? So county general fund backs the debt associated with this now. So it's GO bonds that were issued to replace. I think they were originally must have been revenue bonds that were issued.
They had a mix of everything.
But our treasurer, Lisa Frazier, did an amazing job of refinancing that, getting it at a super low interest rate, and then the county, the commissioners yourselves, have dedicated funds that normally go to benefit the entire county out of real estate excise tax and 0.09 sales tax, and dedicated that to keep that utility afloat, right? To the tune of over $1.2 million a year.
Yeah, for a while it's 850, then one up to 1.2.
Well, I think you still do 850 from real estate excise tax and
425.
Yeah.
450 from.
But at one point we only had the one.
You only had
yes.
yeah.
No, but it was still bad back then because
And
there was no revenue coming in.
Yeah, it was losing money every
Yeah.
year, right? We couldn't
But
even
no,
cover
we
our
did a great
costs.
job as a commission. The one thing is, we don't have to have this in order to survive anymore. Now we're in a good, strong position. As a matter of fact, it should be paid off in a couple of years if we don't take on any more debt. We are in the best position to take care of ourselves for the first time in many years,
We still have to expand the spray field though. That's a requirement.
maybe.
Once
We'll,
we
we'll see
hit,
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
go check it out.
Right.
once you hit the, what is it, 0.116?
85%.
85%, so that's 106,000, just under.
Actually, at 85%, the verbiage is you must plan at 85%.
Yeah.
Not that you have to expand.
No,
It's the two
and
things.
3 months in
Yeah.
a row.
Yeah,
It has to be
And-
3 months in a row, and that hits the trigger to plan for
to plan for.
getting.
And I went through all that with
capacity and
the
providing
sewer itself before I was ever there. The whole thing they were telling Belfair, you have to do the sewer. No, the law said that afterwards, in order to have a UJ, you have to plan for the sewer.
Mhm.
Well, the people kept getting pushed and they pushed it on them because they didn't follow the verbiage. But right now, your belief is that it's set up for, once we reach that much capacity in the plant. I remember reading back in the day that it was that much capacity in the spray field. We don't even use it, so we're not even there. But that's something that has to be knocked out eventually with commerce because
Ecology.
or ecology. They don't need to regulate us on how much we take in if we're not putting out.
See,
But
they
that's-
just, how they do their permits, it's just, because there's a manual,
Yeah.
a permit writer's manual, and that's kind of a flaw, because it doesn't give you any latitude with common sense. Right, that would be common
but-
sense,
but
we're
I-
not even putting it out there.
Yeah, but I do know that we could work that, and I think we can get the tribe to help us too, which would be a huge asset.
So
'Cause
it's
they're the
good to
ones
have
that
them on your
stop it.
side.
Well, they're our neighbors.
Yeah,
I want to work with them.
yeah,
Actually,
100%.
Yeah.
I've actually asked Stephanie, our utility accounting manager, to do some projections for me on what does the operations of Belfair Sewer look like in the future, right? So we've had some significant development of single-family residential units as well as some multifamily.
Mhm.
I think the multifamily units are getting completed
They're doing.
to
a good
their
job.
initial build-out stage.
Mhm.
And so we'll have people connected to that. And so looking at that from an annual perspective, what does that look like for revenue coming into Belfair? And is there still a need for the .09 funds to supplement operations? I don't think that it's gonna be a need to the same degree.
Yeah, we're coming closer and closer to surviving a catastrophe.
Standalone, yeah.
I mean, it really was a catastrophe coming in especially when we had no money. You gotta remember, there was a point we had no money and we're running 1.25 backwards every year. But we survived it. We put together new plans, we made things happen, and here we are.
And you're actually, I mean, yeah, so Stephanie's amazing at that, right? When she comes and talks to the commissioners about utility rates. She'll tell you about operational reserves that she wants to create and capital reserves that she wants to create that are industry standards. Belfair, we laughed when we said create reserves in the past. Now you actually have reserves.
Yeah.
I think you're sitting there with
a
upwards
bit.
of $4 million.
$4 million. But the thing to remember is there's a purpose for those reserves.
Mhm.
You were
Yes.
here. When we first came in, there was no purpose for having any of the monies. We gave a purpose. The purpose is for expansions and stuff like that. It wasn't just to go for whatever we wanted it to go to. So we earmarked it. This type of stuff is exactly what it's earmarked for.
Yep.
As the expansion of it. But I still think that it'd be a waste of our money to try and, if we were paying for it for ourselves, to do that, because we definitely can fight to say we're not even using the spray field and we can get that adjusted. Matter of fact, when you first got hired, it just came back to me. You wanted to do that back then.
Oh, yeah.
I remember you saying it.
I've had a complete turnover in ecology too.
Yeah.
That's the only problem.
Yeah.
I got a whole new staff there.
But we need to work on it, because you wanted to do that when you first came in. You found that to be a flaw immediately. It just all came back to me just
Yeah,
now.
because we didn't use it.
Yeah.
But yet it was a limiting factor because that's the capacity they assign to that component of the entire system. It's just, that's how they rate it. What has the least amount of capacity in all the components.
And we'd have enough
That
to
was
last
it.
forever if it was the other case, because we could just hold off on spraying for a couple of days if we had to. But we're not even putting anything out there at all.
We just got a bottom full in the
Yeah.
pond right now. It's holding water, and there's 157 acre feet there. It's
Yeah.
times that by 326,000 gallons.
Yeah.
That's what you got, about 50 some billion.
And ecology's
million
come
gallons
out, right?
Of storage.
To
of storage.
say,
Yeah.
they've looked at it.
Yeah, they're,
Good.
they're
Yeah.
coming up for their
And we
5-year.
monitor we
Yeah.
monitor
Inspection
And
mission.
also the other wells
around the
and
area.
stuff too.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
How
what
do
you
want us
want
to move
from
forward?
us
Yes.
is a path forward.
What I need from the commission is direction on what are our next steps. Do you want us to set up a meeting with Bremerton to continue to discuss the ILA? Or I think Randy's been clear that he's not interested in discussing the ILA.
And also, if we did, which you're correct, I don't want to, I think this is no benefit to us of any value. But if we did, I'd like to know what we're actually asking. We're still not even there yet. We're close to knowing what we're asking for, looking for, but to have a meeting with, do we have any idea if we want to charge them? And how much we would want to charge them? Do we have anything?
So we can have a discussion about selling a portion of the system. I think that Richard has some good experience with that,
Yes, but
working at lot.
But that was a different thing. We should be smart enough to not enter into a contract where we're paying them back if they choose to go. That was a stupid thing on their part. We're not stupid. Well,
They
we're not
didn't even
stupid.
see it coming. That was the problem. They didn't see it coming.
Oh,
We're gonna shut the
we can
brewery
learn by
down?
other people's
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be the same thing at all. We would hold, they buy it, they buy it. If they don't use it, that's their problem. That's the only thing that would make any beneficial to us, and I still don't think we benefit then, but at least we could take it. It's a whole different way of looking at it, but if we had $20-30 million and we unified all of our systems, we can offset our rate problems and payment problems and debt for 10-20 years. So now, would that be a benefit to the county? I'd have to admit that would be.
So is that their initial 160,000 gallons? That's like 16%
16%.
of the million.
It's 3/16.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again,
Closer to 3/16.
3/16.
But that
So is that what you're saying?
No,
Is the portion that you'd want?
no,
us-
because if they wanted to supply their own, it costs them $83 million to start from scratch. There's a value for everything that we do. 20 million is actually low, I would think, for us to supply them for 20 years. I think that'd be a low cost to them. But I'm just picking a number out because I'm thinking to myself, with 20 million, we could float these other ones for maybe 20 years. We'd lose that 20 million, no matter what, we lose it. But how we lose it, though, is over time. It'd be us just borrowing the money or taking the money, because we lose it over time through sales tax, through property tax and everything else. No matter what, it's a sucking sound the other way. But if we have 20 million up front, then we can do a lot of good with that in the meantime, and hopefully find a way to offset the growth issues and them taking from us. My biggest fear is that we become Shelton, what they did to Shelton when they put up that Walmart. Seemed like a great idea, but they cut off their own community down below. We have a bypass going on, you put a shop center on top, you cut off that community down below. They end up with shops that are secondhand stores, because that's what happens to dying communities. Secondhand stores and stuff like that, and we don't have the sales tax to benefit from it. Eventually we build something up on top of the hill too, and so we start to get our money back, but that little town never comes back. Shelton still doesn't come back. It's just the way it works, unless we build it together. If we force it to be built on that hill connected, then we build it together. Many years ago, I was not a fan of the bypass, because the original thing would have allowed for that developer, who's the same one, actually, to have no zoning up above, and it would allow for growth to occur only up there and kill the lower town. I wanted the bypass, but not with no zoning. That was the only thing. So I still supported it. It was out there in public. But that was many years ago. I wasn't commissioner, I wasn't nothing, I was just a community member. But they were right. Brian Peterson was fighting at the time, and if they'd have done it with no zoning or anything else up there, with no control from the county, then it would have sucked everything out of Belfair and put it up on the hill. You have to be smart enough to keep them together. I'm not a big fan for control like that, but if you don't control it, if you don't have some type of controlled growth, you'll lose.
So if we were to sit down with Bremerton, you would want to talk about the potential for the purchase of a portion of the plant, kind of just throwing a number out there, 20 million. And then revenue sharing for sales tax, property tax, and any agreements that they might create with, like if the Suquamish tribe has an agreement with the city to provide them some revenue for whatever they build there, then you're asking the Mason County have some type of revenue sharing agreements for any development in the area served by the sewer?
I hadn't gone that far, but that would make more benefit than doing nothing, yes. Again, I still prefer not to do it, but
Understood.
that definitely makes more sense than just putting out there. We don't get the money from the sewer, we just don't.
Not
That
in
stays
general
in the
fund,
computer.
correct.
Yeah, I know, that stays in there, but even still, you got 20 years out and they do the damage in the first 3 years. And we only get 50 RUs, what did we really get? Even if they got 100 RUs, what did we really get?
Well, and this might all be deal breakers for
Yeah.
City of Bremerton. So I think, personally, I think that the next step that we take should be to have a meeting with Bremerton.
And so.
Because
so
they might even say, no, we're done too.
help me understand here,
Well-
Sharon and Pat, are you guys asking us to continue to move forward in setting up a meeting with Bremerton? And to start to float some of these potential topics out there with them in terms of potential buy-in, which we can discuss as a group. There is some concerns I think that we have from an operational standpoint about selling.
That scares me.
But then also specific discussions about potential sales tax, property tax, and agreement revenue sharing. Is that thing that you want for development that occurs within this area? Are those topics that you want to discuss with Bremerton, or?
I don't think that they should be ignored, for sure.
Okay,
And if we do move ahead, I want to make sure that it's important to me that we're good neighbors with all of our neighbors. And so I want to make sure that Mason County comes first. And I like that was put in here. But I think that there's things that we're talking about that the city of Bremerton could go, yeah, we're out.
but at
And,
least
but we
give
don't
them the
know.
opportunity to have the discussion.
Right, we don't know unless we talk to them. It's funny how communication works that way.
Yeah, I think I'd like to talk to Bremerton. I have this idea mulling around in my head. Can we separate out exactly what sales tax we're seeing from, say, internet sales versus brick and mortar?
I don't know. Let me check.
It's trying to predict the future is pretty challenging.
Yeah.
So
My crystal ball climbed a cloud.
Yeah.
I just know that things will be changing, and I don't know how much we can depend on the brick and mortar type of sales tax revenue.
We're always gonna need homes.
We're gonna need homes, we're always gonna need sewers, all of those things, but if it's sales tax is the concern, and I understand what you're saying, Randy, I'm just not sure whether there will always be sales tax because you will always have people going to the grocery store, people going to McDonald's, people going to restaurants, things like that. But I don't know the makeup. Is that the bulk of our sales tax, or is that just actually a small part of it?
I would think that especially since COVID hit, that you saw some increases in sales tax that Mason County received because sales tax was being applied at the residential address of where that individual item was being shipped. So I do think that Mason County most likely benefited from the fact that individuals were shopping online as opposed to going to a physical brick and mortar. But you also have some items that you normally traditionally don't purchase over brick and mortar, right? Or you don't purchase over the internet, excuse me. So if I'm gonna buy a sheet of plywood and some 2x4s, I'm not gonna be buying that over the internet, most likely.
No.
I'm gonna go down to my local hardware store. So it's really tough to say. I can see what we can get from the Department of Revenue. I'll work with Jen on that when she gets back, because I think she may have access to DOR data. I'll also work with the Treasurer's Office and see if they have some information on that, so we can kind of get an idea of what that looks like.
I'm just basing it on, I think probably every person I know that's 35 years old or younger, they don't ever go to a store, ever. everything is ordered and delivered to their house, whether it's groceries or, you know, small appliances, everything is ordered over the internet. And that seems to be the wave of the future. And, you know, I don't know that, are we there yet? Has it you know, gotten to be a significant chunk of our, so it's just, it's part of the thought process, my thought process going into how do we protect the citizens of Mason County and the interests of Mason County.
I think that you also look at, I think that Randy had a valid point of the 25,000 people that are traveling through there on a daily basis now. As they're traveling through, either way, there are opportunities to stop and get a burger, or there are opportunities to stop on the way home at the grocery store and pick up something for dinner, or exists within Belfair. Right? And so that's the only, right? So, yeah, I think that is, I'm sure there's people out there that do analysis like that. But yeah, I would definitely be speculating if I.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing to remember, no matter what, we don't spend the money twice. They don't spend the money twice. If they buy a home, they buy a home once. They could buy elsewhere, but I'm just saying if they bought one here, they're not going to buy one down the road. If they're going to open a new business here in Belfair, because that's where the infrastructure is, they're not going to open a new business in Belfair and just up the road in Bremerton. Same thing with every commercial entity that comes in. Anything that they do there, we can't get here. That's just the way it goes because you can't spend the money twice.
I think that from in terms of ease of development, right? That's probably another topic that we could discuss. And the Puget Sound Industrial Center has done some things to specifically say this type of development can come here and develop. Portion of Belfair, we've also done some similar work on that in our planned action EIS for development in that specific area that may be less hoops that individuals would have to jump through to develop those areas. I don't know which one's easier, but I do think that both of us have done some things to help ease that transition or encourage development in those areas.
We actually did that so we can compete.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we did that so we can compete, and then we opened another competition just past our line. Doesn't make any sense. But that's why we spent that money, we spent that time, so we can compete with them proper and still have that distance between us. Without that distance, we wasted that money because they already have it for themselves. And they can change quicker than a county can. That's the scariest part. Look at their buildings and what they do. They can build things. We have limitations on what we do here in the county, and we're always going to. Cities have a lot less limitations. They're allowed to.
So moving forward.
I hear two commissioners asking me to set up a government-to-government meeting with Belfair, or Bremerton, excuse me. I will reach out to Mayor Wheeler and see if Bremerton would like to meet. I do think that they would, so.
I know they're watching.
Oh, Ned's on. Yeah.
Ned's on.
Hi, Ned.
Yeah. So I just feel like, well, communication is key in, so let's figure out if they want to go ahead after they hear our concerns and, you know, and that might even help us with our either concerns or
I will call
not.
Mayor Wheeler and let him know that we had our discussion in our briefing this morning. If he wants to watch it, he can. He can kind of hear some of the concerns that we had, some of the potential items that we might want to negotiate in an interlocal agreement, and kind of take their temperature and see if they'd even be willing to meet with us on it. So, okay.
Nope, I think that's a good step.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Richard.
Richard, don't leave.
Thank you.
You guys are next.
Oh, that's roadside.
It says I gotta do it again.
No, you can ignore that one. But there is like water reclamation tour,
Oh, yeah.
SWAC tour.
Okay.
Oh, is that, we do have some of those. Does the
Oh,
commissioners, so
jeez.
when we were meeting with this Swanson tribe, they actually wanted to come up and tour our facility. Is that something that the commissioners want to set up another government-to-government meeting to tour that facility together?
Sure.
I think it's fun, yeah.
Okay.
And they're also gonna set up a tour so that we can look at theirs. I love sewer plants, they're fun.
Okay.
Okay, maybe they're not fun, but they're
I say,
interesting.
ours in North Mesa is pretty cool.
It is.
It is, compared to other plants that I've seen. Ours is pretty
It's
cool.
looking a lot better now that Ralph's been out there.
Yeah, it's cool.
Getting it all spiffy.
We have nothing on action agenda, so thank you.
Oh, no.
Please drive through.
But
I
you got some
tried.
good updates that we want to hear about.
Right?
Some discussion items is Public Works Outer Facility work session scheduling. Whenever you guys are ready, we're available. So,
Yeah. Maybe work with Mackenzie and Mark.
okay. Interlocal agreement with you, I already talked
We
about
got
that.
that one.
SR 302. We've Loretta reached out to Sarah Ott from DOT, but we haven't got any response back. Just observing, well, we've observed the stretch of road through there, and I think it was Parametric did a little technical memo for the DOT between 2017 and 2021 about the accident rates, and most of the accidents were actually in Pierce County that were fatal accident and some injury accidents. But there's a lot of conflict there, just no different than North Shore Road or 106, where you have backing out into the road, you have people trying to stop, pull off, and you have a main commuter route going through. And they noted that most of the accidents were caused by high speeds, and a lot of the runoffs were single car runoffs that were on during the daylight hours even and stuff. So I don't know if you've seen that memo, but we can get that to you to take a look.
Well, and again, the majority of them that I'm seeing and dealing with is them just not making that curve, going right off into those
Yeah.
people's homes, and them calling me while they're pulling people out of the cars, and it's been bad. And again, the past commission had said we wanted to put lights there or some type of traffic calming. So the question becomes, at what point will we do that? I know we have to contact them. I know it's a state, but I'd like to see us move forward at some of it.
Well, they, they're willing to put some things up what we've been dealing with the state, they're willing to put things up if you pay
If we
for
pay
it.
for it, yes.
So,
And that's what the commission had agreed with those two locations. There's one, just so you know, Pat, there's at least, I think he was talking about, there's one in your district, which was a crosswalk out by the restaurant down in Union. Right down over there. They've been put a lot of work in to get to that point. The past commissioner was, pushing, we agreed to go forward with an investment because we have different monies that are available for different things. And they were talking about taking those monies out of the new road for economic development dollars at the time.
and so we'll when Sarah gets back to us, we'll get back to you about what kind of suggestions that they've got. So, they're a little bit hard to deal with, DOT, getting a response. David's been trying to get the signs up there at Victor for 2023. Yeah. So
Like you have the signs already done, we just need to place them and just get approval. to
it's
place them.
their signs, that they're standard signs that they would show for the intersection of Victor and 302.
Mhm.
I don't know if they were ever put up in the first place or they got knocked down and they just haven't replaced them. But every time we call them, they reassure us that they're going to get to that. And
That's before what we're talking about at that intersection there, which is a pretty shitty intersection because of something that's ours, right? We've got a wall.
We got a pump station right there.
Yeah, and a wall that goes out so they can't see from that turn. I didn't realize that was us until just realized recently. It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit frustrating. Well, not a little bit. It's a lot of bit frustrating to keep pushed off. So it's not that we're not trying. It's just we don't have control over
Well, do we need Dan to call? Because Dan was 100% behind this too, and he wanted to do it. Do we need him to call her? Because he will.
Let us get with Sarah. again, and then we'll try it one more time. So, and then back to 106, the pedestrian improvement there. We did meet with the DOT last week. He was really recommending not to put a crosswalk there because it is kind of a little blind corner, not blind, but it's a little hard to see corner. And there's really no place to walk along the shoulders of that road. And so it really needs to be a larger project to actually open that up more, put some paving, cover some ditches, that kind of thing. But short term, he was recommending that if we wanted to fund it, that some speed display signs could be somewhere of a project to put in that area. But
Yeah, but also, and again, this is your district, Pat, so I'm just jumping in from what I know from what the past commissioner, and if you disagree, that's not a problem, I'll go along with what you need in yours. The idea was, even with crosswalk, we'd have the flashing lights come around that corner. It would be the smartest thing to do would be to take out that one corner where that tree is, and apparently that's DOT right away, so it could be opened up a little bit. But even to have a light there saying crosswalk, and then having the crosswalk that is solar, it's a little bit of money, but the commission had agreed to do that, and they wanted to do that. And I think you were looking at 15,000 or so for the solar lights, and then whatever flashing was, we didn't put that into the.
Yeah, their main concern was it wasn't the posted speed, it's what the real speed is, and that there wasn't enough line of sight to get stopped in that situation. So we can look back with them and see if they would what the project would look like to improve that line of sight. In other words, you'd have to clear the bank and maybe cut the bank back. I haven't looked at it structurally, what that would entail, but we can look at that, but that'll up the cost.
Because whether we like it or not, people are using that. They're crossing that without a crosswalk. They're going there. So although we always plan everything to the 80th percentile of what they're actually traveling, we also have to plan to where they're actually crossing.
Yeah.
Love that old thing about why do you let the deer cross in the middle of well, the people are crossing there, so being able to protect them seems like an important thing. And I could assume that if we're looking at, I know that they have them cheaper now than they had when we first started. Having those push button flashing lights for crosswalks were 15 when we first started doing them. We did them for Belfair and stuff like that years ago. I think they're down to like 7 now. But you guys would know better than I would, because it may not be able to be done this way. But if you could look into that, but maybe another few thousand just to have flashing lights right at that corner, just saying intersection. We never talked about that before, but it would make sense.
It'd be we can bring that up, but it's their facility, so they'll make the the final
Well,
call
again,
on that.
Dan was already on board with all this, just so you know, and I'm sure he'd be willing to make a phone call if you.
Well, I don't even think it's a money thing, or can you do this thing? I think is it going to make it unsafe thing? That's more what they're looking at.
I mean, I've crossed that road often.
Yeah. See, it's her fault.
I've run across it. Yeah, because I don't want to get hit.
Yeah,
but it's a popular spot. You're not gonna, and I definitely don't want to stop people from going, because again, it helps our bottom line.
Yeah, but it's another situation where you have everything so tight. You got a steep bank, you got the water, you got the back in and out parking that's hazardous or potentially. Yeah.
But if we make a determination we're going to make things happen, we usually can get it done. So let's, unless our commissioner who represents that now disagrees, we had already said that if we can make it happen.
It's a hazardous area.
I think you run across the road too.
I tried to doorbell.
I would say I don't run.
It's tough to walk down that road. It's pretty hazardous walking down the side of the road.
Yeah, I listen for cars, and then I walk regular as I can. Why would you walk when you can roll?
Well, for many reasons.
Well, you're not built like me, though, Commissioner. You don't roll.
So the next crosswalk problem is over on Pickering, and Dave talked to the property owner.
Yeah, so I met with Larry, the owner, and showed him, that
Spencer Lake.
Yeah, Spencer Lake Resort. Went out there and discussed with him, what may have to happen in terms of his parking to create an area for a crosswalk and to protect the sign itself, because you got to have a sign there that says this is a crosswalk, and then in advance of it, and then the push button itself. and that we'd probably have to do some modifications of the parking. And then he let me know that it wasn't his idea, it was somebody named Big Bill, whoever that is, and that he hasn't really decided if he wants that in front of his restaurant, so.
Well, they already have a crosswalk.
They
What
do.
am I missing?
They do have a crosswalk.
No,
Yeah.
what they want is blinking lights.
No, I know, but that doesn't take up where we have to take up any of his parking stalls.
Yeah, because it'll go right in front of it'd be
would.
right at the crosswalk.
Right.
When
Has
people
to be.
back into
And
it.
so it'd take up at least one parking stall, if not two.
Yeah,
Because
'cause
you'll
they
have to
park
put
right
some
in front of the
curbs
door.
around it, you have to have a landing for people.
Oh, you're talking about across the
Stand
street?
up.
Yeah.
I'm with you
On
now.
both sides, actually.
Yeah.
In front of the restaurant too, because people will back into it. and it's-
Absolutely in front of the restaurant,
Yeah.
yeah. And that would take up more of the stalls, I
Yeah,
think.
but even if you had just one on the one side as a warning flasher is better than having
You
none.
have to go over there and push the button.
That's true, to get back the other way.
He kinda wanted one, that if you open the door, the lights would come on.
Yeah, wanted a remote control
Yeah,
Wi-Fi.
I haven't seen one of those yet.
So that was the only road since I've been here. We actually had to raise the speed limit because we had lowered it so much that the 80th percentile was so high that they were passing school buses. So we actually went, and it was a long, hard process, wasn't it? And it made no sense to so many people that were there, but literally, after it was all explained, it does make sense. If it's too slow, you create dangers. And they created a lot of dangers on that road. So
I remember
it
that.
came up at that time about the crosswalks and everything, and we chose not to at the time. But it also, it was a lot more money, and we weren't looking at it that way. We were looking at the ones that went into the road because we didn't have the other solars.
Yeah, I think they settled on the lighting. They put up a really nice luminaire
Yep.
over the crosswalk, which really
You're right.
helped a lot of things, so.
So that's where we are, we'll get back with Larry and
Yeah, the problem is you come over that hill, and
Yeah.
if you're going really fast, it's like you're on that thing faster than you could react. And if you've got rain or, snow and ice, you're not gonna stop if there's somebody crossing.
but I don't know if that light's gonna stop them either.
They're coming fast.
Yeah, but the chances are better.
It tends to give, when you have those lights on, it tends to give, from what we've experienced, especially up in Hoodsport, it tends to give the pedestrian the right to cross
Yeah.
instead of taking,
But remember,
a safety look at it.
we can't legislate stupid.
I get that.
We just can't. So we can do the best that we can.
I've done that.
And that's
dealt
what we
with
have
that
to
all
deal
my
with.
career. So, but we'll get back with him. So, Belfair Water,
Let me know. Let's do it.
What?
Belfair Water Reclamation Tour.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because there's Belfair Water. I was thinking, we're doing something with Belfair Water. Okay,
Cleaning it, that's all.
gotcha.
and then the road ops for Loretta reached out to the paper. What was her name?
June.
And so they've set something up for April.
Oh, awesome.
So
That's cool.
we'll
I
Not
bet
as
she's
not as
excited.
fun as the snow blow.
hopefully they'll.
The snow truck.
But any of them are just getting on a big truck is cool.
We're gonna give her a
Fun.
loot.
Good, good, good.
Break some asphalt.
Oh, nice.
I gotta admit, that's the one thing I do miss in life.
That's awesome.
Growing up, I always had some heavy equipment around, and I can't tell you what a beautiful thing to clear your head out, man. You go on a backhoe or go on a dozer, and everything is okay in the world.
Depends on what you're taking out.
Didn't matter. I was on a backhoe and a dozer.
And just as a side note, if you have to have an extra $1 million, old Olympic Highway milepost 1.5 to 2.89 is designed and completed, and so.
I left it in my other pants.
Yeah.
Where's this at?
You know, in the wash, probably.
Old Olympic Highway from SR 101 going north to Bloomfield. That's the main entrance into Camelci there. So we have that designed, and if we just happen to have $1 million, we could pave that road too.
And you can get it done this year?
Yeah, we could go out to contract in 3-4 weeks if we needed to.
What's the, you've already done the work, so there must have been a need. What is the need?
The need is it's the old road system that's 1917, concrete panels, cracked up, broke up. We've spread some peanut butter on it a few places and times, and it's all flat grade. It's less than 20 feet wide. It's a major collector in that sense. We've just converted that, and it's got some curbing along the sides that people get hung up on with their boat trailers and such. And so it's just a hazard in that sense from being, it was designed for 1917. So so we plan on improving that by putting down a 2-inch layer of asphalt to rebuild the crown back, then put down what they call glass grid, is a fiberglass mesh, and then put another layer of 2-inch asphalt. So you sandwich that glass grid, and that keeps the cracking from reflecting back through the asphalt.
Are we having accidents? Are we having water coming out of the ground? What do we have in there also other than?
There is, most of the accidents are non-reported, but you can see the evidence on.
Because they're hitting the sides, hitting the curbs.
They're hitting the curbs, getting off the road.
Whose district is that?
Mine.
Huh?
Mine.
That's yours?
Yeah.
So.
For Camilchi?
It's just outside of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
it's like right on our border.
Yeah.
So this last year, Mark,
Yep.
we put some money away for the new roads for economic development this last year. And you're saying you have the capacity to be able to take this job on and stuff?
Yeah.
What do you
Do
think?
we have funds in there?
We do?
Yeah.
I thought we did. And I'd like to always save it for new roads for economic development, but when you have an opportunity, we have the capacity, and it's a safety issue. I'm okay with it if you guys are.
Well, and Camilchi there's businesses down there,
Yeah.
so.
Well, it's split between the two of you there, but I would be supportive. It seems like it's a good investment. I don't like, this be the first time we've taken money out of that other than for little tiny things like these lights we're talking about, but I'd be supportive if you guys are.
Yeah, I think it is a problem.
It is.
Yeah.
It's the next highest on our list.
Yeah.
So Pat, I wanna remind you, when we put money away, just so you know, we, of those monies, we actually earmarked $1 million for a project. If they ever get together on their stuff for the.
Fraser Road extension?
No, right here,
No, the
Gateway.
gateway.
Also was earmarked for that, just so you
But-
know, so when the time
but-
comes and they get to that.
We'll see how that one goes.
Well, that's why we haven't done it
We've got
yet.
other needs.
That's why we
so-
haven't done it yet, but, so you know, when that comes up in the future, she's got that sitting there, cause. So,
Maybe.
do you wanna,
So we actually have, is this the new road project?
yes,
Reserve? So end of 2024, 4.5 million, and then 2025, estimated budget is 6.5 million. So
yes, that's what I
we
thought.
put a couple.
So we put 2 million to move around this, put $1 million back basically, but. Well, at the time, you sometimes hold that money until you have the project to do it, and it seems like you came to us, you must have thought it was important because you're sitting there asking for it, you're saying you did
Well,
the
yeah, I
work.
mean, we've got 14 million in our,
Ending fund balance, yeah.
ending fund balance for roads. But, of that, we've got, have it designated for specific things, right? So 6.5 million for new roads. We've got 4.6 million for operating and another 2.5 million for just beginning unrestricted.
So this will put us back to 5.5 million, which is a lot for when we have these roads we need to connect to, maybe find the other, what would you say, was it 1 million or 1.1, would you?
For this project, it's 1,040,000 is what it came out to be estimated.
Take the other 40 out of their budget. So it looks
Yeah.
like you've got 3 of them that are okay with doing that, put it on the agenda.
Okay.
You'd say that was your,
That smile.
yeah, is Loretta gonna be smiling when she comes back?
I don't know.
More work, what are you doing?
I sent it to her over the weekend.
What is the project again?
It's Old Olympic Highway,
Old Olympic Highway.
milepost
Yeah,
1.5.
I'll go drive out there afterwards and.
2.89.
It's on your way.
Yeah.
1.5,
See.
0
No.
to
I think I
2.89.
already know what we're talking about. Sounds bad enough.
About
anyway.
1.3 miles, 1.39 miles long.
Funny thing about catching curbs, it's bad, but it's worse when you actually catch it bad.
These are concrete,
Yeah.
and I mean, they're,
It's bad for whoever's you fishtail back into. So
they're terrible.
no, seems like a good
They're on the
safety thing
inside
for
of all
me.
the curves.
It's gonna be that metronome effect of driving on that.
Yeah.
Now, when you have that, you should have just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
You should have a little forum down there in the community to let them know what's doing, because there's gonna be construction happening, stuff like that. So we
No,
can-
let's just surprise them. They like it when we surprise them.
Yeah. Yes, they do. That's what like looks like these days, I guess.
Okay, just so you know, that was sarcasm.
Yeah, so perhaps put together a town hall for,
We can do that. They'll
actually,
like
we should,
asphalt.
because she's right there next to it, you should probably do all three, I guess. But Pat should lead it, it says.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Swag tour?
SWAC tour, April 30th, going to Pioneer Recycling.
Yes, if anybody's interested. And recycling is so, either do it or you don't do it right.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Most people, yeah.
But we have it in our agreements that our stuff has to be recycled. I got beat up by some lady that's saying that we didn't. We had a problem for a while with glass, where nothing, couldn't find a place to do it. But we've checked up on our contracts, as part of our contracts, whether they like it or not, they have to find a way to recycle it. So we're different than what Shelton entered.
Exactly.
Just in case they get on you too. We have a different agreement and we followed through with ours. We are not the same.
Yeah, and the last I heard, it's being end cycled. It's actually becoming part of concrete at the moment because it's as cheap a place they can
still
deal
gets-
with. Still, but
yeah.
we keep track of it, we know where it goes, it's not just ending in a landfill.
I think we still had a request that came out from the commission about looking into what it would, the possibilities maybe having a once a month or a senior exemption where they don't have to or something like that. I don't know if there's ever come back to us
That's
from
still
it.
up to, I mean, yeah. Anyway, so SWAC tour, if anybody's interested. You can tell I'm getting hungry.
You're going, yes.
Yep, I got chemo waiting for me.
And somebody else is getting hangry.
We're good. We're good.
So we did jump over the commissioner's opportunity to,
No, that's at the bottom of the
is that at the
agenda.
bottom?
See right
Oh, I
there?
didn't see it. Okay,
We've got it
sorry.
on two places, but I think we only need it on the one. So if we could just put it on the cover page, I think. 'Cause that way we're doing it at the end. If you guys don't mind.
Yeah. Just so you know, I have nothing for you guys, so thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Yay. And he's smiling.
Well,
What?
when's the last time somebody came in and got $1 million from us?
I'm gonna come down more often.
Yeah.
Okay, be prepared to say no.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, any discussion? We have a meeting tomorrow.
I don't think I do.
Nope. We can save it for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, move we adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.